Good morning. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Governor. And thank you, panel. I was sitting there thinking that I wish we were at the AGB National Conference, that this was our opening plenary session. Make two things easier, all the work that goes into the conference, and a really excellent conversation. Thank you all again. That was great. Governor Bredesen, thank you for trusting us and accepting the invitation to take this on. We know you have a lot of responsibilities and a lot of opportunities. Without you and without Jane, this report doesn't become the report it's become. So thank you very much. We appreciate that. Thanks to our 26 very active and candid commissioners, each of whom know a lot about this subject and did not hold back during the year of conversations. So we're grateful to each of you, and some of those commissioners are not only here, but in just a few minutes will be available to answer questions that we hope those of you with us will ask. Just a little bit of thought and reflection from AGB, if I might. As a member of the commission, I can say that everybody who served on it, all of the commissioners, actually probably as individuals, Jane said this last night at a dinner, could not have individually written the report or come to the conclusions in the report on our own. This was truly a collective, and what I admired, somebody referred to the commission behaving in ways, I think the governor did, as a board. What I admired most was the ability of the commissioners to leave, for the most part, leave their biases and representative roles at the door, and not only to weigh in, but to really do active listening. You don't come up with a product like this unless everybody is willing to listen and ultimately come to a level of consensus that I believe is represented in the pages of the report. But none of us could have gotten to where we ultimately wound up if we had written it on our own, and several of us actually tried to do that during the course of the year. And Jane said, no. We did, during the course of this process, hear from a lot of folks, individuals from public and private institutions, research institutions, individuals who came to us, not only our commissioners, from outside beyond the commission, from community colleges, from statewide systems and liberal arts institutions. We heard from board leaders, we heard from faculty, we heard from current and former presidents and chancellors, we heard from professional staff who actually have to work with their boards on a daily basis, and we heard from higher ed policy experts as well. As Jane just acknowledged when she handed off the mic, we would not have done this no matter how much staff thought this might make some sense about now. We wouldn't have gotten this done without the active support of AGB's board of directors, the board that was in place as our board a couple of years or so ago when we had the conversation of should we do this and really commit to not only doing it, but doing it well. And so I am personally indebted, and I think higher ed should be indebted to AGB's board, but especially the leadership of Jim Geringer. Governor Geringer was chair of the board, and as everybody kind of implied here, the best ideas without the support of the chair are tough to advance. And with his active support, we were able to move forward. So thank you, Governor. That was great. I can assure you, Governor Bredesen, that speaking on behalf of AGB, that we welcome, we accept the recommendations of the commission, and you could be certain, because we have a long history of doing so, that we will advocate on behalf of its themes, its recommendations, and its underlying messages. You can take that to the bank. When we launched this, when we talked with our board and others about whether or not we should put a commission together and look at governance, look under the hood, we really just simplified it. We said there's really one question. There's one burning question that we needed an answer to, and that really was, is our system of board governance up to the task of addressing the challenges confronting higher education in a very different 21st century. And as you heard from the governor and our panel, the commission recognizes that there's a lot of work to be done in addressing the changes facing higher education, and that we need to move on them rather quickly. And connecting a changing nature of board governance to those changes really was the fundamental purpose of this. We have been doing governance in this country, in higher education, pretty much the same way for a little over 300 years. I have a calendar that shows that. And so with all of the changes and all of the pressures that have come at us just in the earliest part of this 21st century, it became clear, and I think the commission recommendations support the fact that we need newer and fresher guidance or guidelines for boards and institution leaders and other stakeholders in higher ed. So the report's underlying theme for us is that more effective and collaborative leadership is needed to support the changes that are taking place and will continue to change and affect higher education going forward, and that governing boards need to play a central role in affecting the changes. Boards serving public and private or independent, 2-year and 4-year institutions and systems. While governance is not a one-size-fits-all process, and you heard from our colleagues on the panel some of the distinctions, we think that the basics of the report and the recommendations contained in it are broadly adaptable and appropriate for consideration across all of higher education. We think that boards need to focus, and the report says it, really on the issues that truly matter, and Jane and colleagues were getting to that on the financial issues on at the back end of the conversation. They need to focus on issues that really do matter, and they need to recognize that they as boards really are probably fundamental to the conversation with the general public and higher ed about reclaiming the public support, public trust for our enterprise. For me, I hearken back, Britt, to what you said early on, that the story of this report really is the story of higher education. And the recommendations, all 7 of them, if you take them apart, they don't hold together, at least to me. This is really a unified message that comes at us in the form of 7 specific recommendations. And when you look at them that way, it really does focus on the critical issues of cost and quality and affordability and completion in the midst of these changing sustainability questions confronting the sector, and the fact that governing boards do need to demonstrate their leadership in meeting those challenges. Governance as leadership, for me, is central to this whole theme of consequential boards or consequential governance. So let me take just a few minutes, and when I'm done, we'll open this up to questions, and I'll sort of play traffic cop a little bit. We have other members of the commission with us who may want to get in on some of the conversations, so we'll open it up more broadly and see how that works. But I want to take my remaining few minutes to share a bit of what we're thinking about AGB will do with the recommendations, Governor, that come from the report, beginning as soon as we leave this room. First, as you sense, we are committed to advancing the messages, the recommendations that are included in the report, that is advancing this whole concept of consequential boards, consequential governance, through our own advocacy, outreach, some expanded services with our members and hopefully new members, new and fresh research, as well as expanding the conversation about board governance even beyond the higher education constituency. Our priority number 1 is to get the word out there, and that's happening today through a very, very broad and well-timed both electronic and hard copy dissemination of the report itself. We're committed to that. Second, we will invite presidents and board leaders from specific institutions to work directly with us to model the report's recommendations in their own institution or system. And I can already tell you that we've teased that out, and we've been receiving calls from presidents saying, we'll play with you. What we want them to do is to kind of try the recommendations on for size and to assess what works and what doesn't quite fit in the construct of their board and their institution. Hopefully, they'll adopt the board's suggestion, the report's suggestions about the need to refocus to the most essential governance relationship between, as our colleagues said, between the board and the institution, and I want to add between the board and the president, but I also want to add between the board chair and the president as well. A lot of it starts there. To address board culture and the board's use of its time in a manner that heightens its attention to those things that matter most, whether it's deconstructing and then restructuring their committees, their agendas, making sure that they are focused on the future as opposed to looking out the rearview mirror. And then also moving to a model that facilitates consideration on some of the more meaningful and strategic challenges rather than more of the same traditional structure. Too many of us who serve on boards participate in committees where we are talked at as an audience, as distinct from really engaging at the level that consequential governance suggests. So we're going to be doing that with particular specific institutions. Also, we'll be doing some of the additional intellectual and conceptual work that comes out of the Commission report, Governor, that's to flesh out some of the ideas that loan themselves to further study. Specifically, we'll consider developing and bringing to our board of directors for their consideration a formal policy statement on the fiduciary principles which are central both to the legal standards of board and board member accountability and that we just think needs to continue to be advanced in front of higher education and its leadership. So we will consider doing that. We will also refresh AGB's longstanding practices for board self-review, board self-assessment as we call it, and incorporate benchmarking data into those engagements. So one board could see generally how it fares in consequential governance with peer institutions. We'll continue to advocate for a fresh start to the important culture of shared governance, which we discussed this morning, and I believe is central to where we need to go going forward between boards and faculty with administrative support. And we'll also likely take a further look at governance within system boards. We touch on this in the report, but with 2/3 of our public institutions part of systems, we think governance in that area needs a bit more study, a bit more work. We're committed to doing that. And perhaps most importantly, we'll consider model policies for board oversight of the multiple dimensions of institution value, which when you cut through some of the report, you see is also a centerpiece of our work. Finally, Governor, we'll invite other organizations to work with us to advance some of the additional ideas that come from the report where we need to reach beyond boards and presidents. We'll collaborate with business officers on perhaps developing metrics for monitoring the link between resource allocation and institutional effectiveness, and with faculty and faculty leadership in order to actually develop steps and strategies on shared governance, to refresh shared governance, and also on board oversight of affiliated organizations, which was also a theme that should not be overlooked that was in the report as well. And AGB will also seek to engage with regional accreditors about how their governance review standards, and they're all looking at governance now, can be refreshed and be moved forward to be more forward-looking. So, Governor Bredesen, again, let me thank you for your leadership. Our colleagues on the commission, I want to thank them as well for the time they've given over to this and their good and important work. You know, there are a lot of commission reports that are released by lots of organizations, even some touching on board governance. But it's my expectation that this AGB Commission report will serve as a call to action. And I think, Ann, you referred to it as a call to action for institutional leaders across the country and in all sectors of higher education, as well as for appointing authorities. The work of boards and institution governance needs to be strengthened. We really have no options but to strengthen it in order to meet higher education's purpose and challenges, really to serve the students we're serving, the underserved students in a changing demographic society that Terrence pointed out. We need to get to this work, and we need to get it done now. We're committed to taking the report forward. Thank you very much.